Good morning. My name is Meredith Wilson.
And I'm Laura Ferrucci.
And we're seniors at Cedar Park Greenwich. The research that we're going to be presenting on today deals with the intersection of the benefits of the consumption of antioxidants and the cognitive decline associated with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. So generally, our research aims to determine the effect of the consumption of antioxidant-rich superfruits on the memory retainment of C. elegans worms, and C. elegans are commonly used as a model organism in neurobiological research. And so in our experiment, we utilized a tap-withdrawal procedure in order to measure the memory retainment of these C. elegans. And essentially what that consists of is exposing the C. elegans to these kind of short bursts of disruptive stimulus and then measuring their response to those. And we hypothesized that as the antioxidant levels that these C. elegans were exposed to increased, then they would demonstrate less intense reactions to the tap-withdrawal stimulus due to the fact that they had remembered previous taps.
So here's just an overview of the research that's been done regarding Alzheimer's, antioxidants, and superfruits. A study conducted in 2014 really called attention to the seriousness of Alzheimer's, revealing that not only are 5 million people living with Alzheimer's, but the disease is in the top 10 leading causes of death in the United States. In 1996, it was found that Alzheimer's disease lesions are characterized by the presence of inflammatory proteins, and that anti-inflammatory drugs can preempt the presence of these lesions and therefore protect against Alzheimer's. Foods high in antioxidants are known to have an anti-inflammatory property. This is a graph comparing the antioxidant strength of various fruits, measured using the oxygen radical absorbance capacity method, or the ORAC method. Antioxidants are essentially magic. A study done in 2017 found that broccoli, which tested high on the ORAC, lowers the blood sugar of diabetic patients. And a study conducted the next year revealed that broccoli can also reverse age-related changes in the vascular system. Superfruits, which are fruits with high levels of antioxidant activity, have been shown to do some pretty magical things too, including reducing and protecting against inflammation. A 2009 study found that superfruit antioxidants can protect against UV rays and also reduce UV-induced skin inflammation. These studies are the primary basis for our hypothesis. Perhaps the anti-inflammatory properties in certain superfruits could protect against cognitive diseases like Alzheimer's, which are characterized by the presence of inflammatory proteins, and even potentially reverse their effects.
So our research was split into two primary components, the first being the measurement of the antioxidant content of 4 different known superfruits, those being mangosteen, maqui berry, blueberries, and acai, and the second part being that involved the C. elegans of measuring their response to tap-withdrawal stimulus after ingestion of after ingestions of extracts that contain these superfruits. So essentially, to make those superfruit extracts or those superfruit solutions, we combined a freeze-dried powder of those superfruits with distilled water, with FC reagent, sodium bicarbonate, and ethanol. And then using a spectrophotometer, we measured the absorbance and the transmittance of those different solutions. And then now we'll move on to the part of our experiment that has to deal with these C. elegans themselves. And so we obtained C. elegans that were in basically in E. coli buffer that contained nutrients from them. And from here, the C. elegans were split into 5 different test tubes, or 5 different groups essentially. One being a control group that had only buffer and no superfruit solution, and the others being the 4 variable groups that each contained 10 microliters of one of the superfruit solutions. So after 4 hours within the superfruit solution, the tap-withdrawal procedure was performed on all of the C. elegans. And essentially how we carried that out is that we took C. elegans from one of the groups, we placed them on a petri dish, and we administered 10 taps rapidly, and then for the next minute observed their response in terms of migration and in terms of thrashing. And then we wait a set amount of time, and we perform that again. We performed 3 trials of the tapping on each of the 5 groups.
So our results. This graph shows the transmittance percentages of each superfruit that we tested in each of the 3 trials that we conducted. The lower the transmittance, the more antioxidant activity is in the fruit. So maqui berry is the strongest in terms of antioxidant activity at about 10% transmittance, followed by blueberry, acai, and mangosteen, the weakest at about 35% transmittance. And these graphs are the absorbance levels of each superfruit. So the higher the absorbance, the stronger the antioxidant activity in the fruit. Again, maqui berry has the most absorbance and the strongest antioxidant activity, followed by blueberry, acai, and mangosteen. So we measured both the average intensity of the C. elegans thrashing and also the migration trends that the C. elegans seemed to follow in response to the taps. This slide shows the thrash results for each superfruit. Each graph shows the thrash intensity level measured on a qualitative scale from 1 to 3, 1 being medium thrash and 3 being the most intense thrash, before the tap and after each of the 3 administered taps. In the control solution, the C. elegans thrashed at medium intensity before the first tap and then seemed to increase in intensity after each subsequent tap. And C. elegans in the mangosteen, blueberry, and acai solutions appeared to follow the same trend, while the C. elegans in the maqui berry solution in the middle over there were thrashing very intensely before and after the first tap, and then their thrashing seemed to decrease in intensity with each subsequent tap. As I said before, the second part of our measurement is the general direction of the C. elegans movement. Let me first explain how we represented this data. A migrative trend away from the general location of the tap is represented with positive numbers, and a trend toward the tap is represented with negative numbers, and 0 indicates no movement. In the control solution, the C. elegans moved toward the general direction of tap number 1, did not move after tap number 2, and moved away from tap number 3. In both the maqui berry and the mangosteen solutions, the C. elegans moved away from the general direction of tap number 1 and then did not move after the next 2 taps. The reverse was true for the acai solution, and in the blueberry solution, no significant movement was observed after any of the 3 taps.
So in terms of explaining these results, to address the thrashing, we saw a general trend of increasing thrash as more taps were administered, with the exception of maqui berry. So remember that maqui berry was also, in the first phase of our experiment, the superfruit that showed the highest absorbance, meaning that it's also the superfruit of the 4 that we tested with the highest antioxidant content, which we found incredibly interesting because although more data needs to be taken, this could potentially signify that the antioxidants within the maqui berry are actually allowing the C. elegans to have a better memory, thus they're able to remember previous taps, they feel less intimidated by them, and they have less of a strong reaction. In terms of explaining the migration patterns, we witnessed different migration patterns in each of the 4 superfruits. So our hypothesis, none of these patterns necessarily very strongly supported or very strongly undermined our hypothesis, but what we did find incredibly interesting is that both the maqui berry and the mangosteen, they showed an initial response to the tap in terms of migration, though subsequently that seemed to decrease, which could potentially signify, again, that the ingestion of the antioxidants are improving their short-term memory.
So continuing our experimentation and data collection regarding the tap withdrawal process is necessary to more clearly understand the impact of superfruits on C. elegans memory over various time spans. We plan to take more trials, test out different methods of more quantitative measurement of the C. elegans movement, and try different blends of the superfruit solution and the C. elegans food source to ensure their survival and to reduce the variability in our experimental process, which will improve the accuracy of our results.
So thank you for being here today, and feel free to ask any questions you have.
Just really quickly, why the focus on superfoods? There are a number of different anti-inflammatory substances that you could have chosen to study. I'm just curious why you chose superfoods.
Yeah. So Laura and I kind of both had separate research focuses that we decided to combine a little bit. So Laura was focusing on antioxidants. I was interested in kind of memory, and we combined those together too, because a lot of research, as you can see, has been done, and we wanted to kind of further that and take it in our direction as well.
And again, quickly, because I know we're short on time, I'd like to hear a little bit more about, in your process, how you figured out the 10 microliter dosage and the dilution rates. Was there previous research that helped you figure out this won't kill these creatures? And
Yeah, so that was definitely a learning curve.
Okay,
Yeah,
tell us about it.
that's something that we're still working on as well.
Okay.
And so we started with 10 because it seemed to be a reasonable amount based on what we knew previously. Though in further experimentation, we'd like to decrease that a little bit because we found that, especially when they're also not, contained with their other nutrients, like we said, we left them in the solution for 4 hours, then that can be detrimental to their survival when they're only left with that for that amount of time. So future work would definitely include kind of playing around a little bit with that concentration to understand kind of, what's beneficial to them, but what also allows them to stay alive for their experiment too.
Right, especially the ones that weren't moving so much after the
It's like
tap.
they were sedated.
Yeah, fascinating.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.